Jaishankar, please, of course, Sri Anup Mehta, Mehul Shah, Bipul Shah, and Kirit Bhansali ji to please come forward and light the lamp. Thank you so much, Dr. Jaishankar. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, rather, everybody, and welcome this very Sunday hot afternoon. And we all have come from home, but he's already finished, I think, 4 or 5 engagements since morning. So we can all smile. I've got this very enviable job of introducing you to a man that needs no introduction. I think he's a master class himself. I'm a chief brand custodian of many brands, sir, and every time I see you and I see your narratives on key messaging, we learn a lot. We also speak in the ITs and IMs and give your examples. I think in many ways, Dr. Jaishankar is the chief brand custodian of the India brand, or shall I say the Bharat brand. Globally, a job that is complex, it's extremely explosive, on the tenterhooks, and it impacts more than 1.4 billion people. Dr. Jaishankar has executed his assignments with such astute diplomacy, firmness, decisiveness, and aplomb that he has made brand India looks very smart, futuristic, and a lot more self-reliant than ever before in the history of post-independence India. Padma Shri Dr. Jaishankar speaks 8 languages, and so much more to him that I need to highlight. If you Google him, you'll find various things, but the next 3-4 points, some of you may not know. His father, Mr. K. Subramanian, was a strategic affairs analyst, a commentator, and a civil servant. A graduate of St. Stephen's, MA in political science, MPhil and PhD in international relations from JNU, specialized in nuclear diplomacy. And when I saw Dr. Jaishankar's CV, it's an amazing mirror of what his father has done. So it runs not just in his lifetime of 4 decades, but it also comes from his legacy and of the family. In 1978, he started his career in Moscow, and his fluency in Russian and various relationships across the Kremlin has helped in boosting the India-Russia ties, which is stronger than ever. He was the largest serving Indian ambassador to China and played a pivotal role in reinforcing economic, trade, and cultural relationships between the two countries. In fact, the latest stand down at the PSC that we saw 4 days ago is a culmination of all the effort that Prime Minister Modi and Dr. Jaishankar himself has been put in through decades. He attracted limelight during his tenure as the Indian ambassador to the US, where he successfully negotiated the famous Devyani Khobragade case. I had to mention this, sir, because it was such a complex case, which you single-handedly resolved through your simplicity and beautiful body language. He's played a key role in negotiating the landmark India-US nuclear deal and other initiatives. He has served as India's ambassador to the Czech Republic, High Commissioner of Singapore, head of America's Ministry of External Affairs. I can go on. So I'm going to stop here, ladies and gentlemen, and tell you that it's only prudent for me to say that Dr. Jaishankar, under the beautiful relationship and leadership of the empowering Honorary Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, has taken the pride of the Indian flag, has taken the pride of us citizens, and tagged love and respect to the India brand and the Bharat brand in his own inimitable style of plain speak, heartful relationships, and absolutely firm diplomacy. Right? I would like to now call upon Sri Anup Mehta and Mehul Shah to please present a bouquet of flowers and felicitate him, please. Is there? Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like to now invite Sri Vipul Shah and Kirit Bansali, please, to felicitate and present a bouquet of flowers to Dr. Jaishankar. Thank you so much. Okay, so you guys have been patiently, eagerly waiting for the man of the moment. And can I invite Dr. Jaishankar to please, this is a monologue. I'm not going to give you any minutes, 20, 25, 30, 50. If he enjoys it, he can go on all afternoon, all evening. So Dr. Jaishankar, the stage is all yours.
No, I think I'd prefer to keep it shorter. I'll tell you why. Because I find often a lot of people have things to ask, sometimes things to say. And what happens, kabhi kabhi wo aadhe mein reh jata hai. So I will go the opposite today, try and start a little tight and open it up more. So this series is called Ye Bharat Ka Time Hai. Day before yesterday, I heard that effectively that message, Ye Bharat Ka Time Hai, said in German by one chancellor, half his cabinet, and about 1,000 German businessmen. So I want all of you to appreciate for a start that this sense of Bharat is not just us feeling good about ourselves. It is a reality, a very hard-headed reality, because nobody is more real than people in business. I think I don't need to convince anybody in this room about that. When you see that kind of business sentiment and political sentiment, politically led sentiment, coming from a G7 nation, which is not historically necessarily the closest to us, something has really changed. So, let me give you another example of what has changed. It's been now 4.5 months since the third term of Prime Minister Modi. And obviously, Indian diplomacy has been busy. So I earn my salary, I can assure you. Now, when I look back at these 4.5 months, we were at the BRICS recently, a month before that at the Quad, 2 months before that at the G7, 2 months after the G7 at the Voice of the Global South Summit. Now, I mentioned that to you because to be at the BRICS and the Quad, and we were the only common country, to be at the G7 meeting and also, chair the Global South. That also tells you something. It also tells you that we have that ability and the credibility and the relevance to actually be present in multiple worlds which characterizes the current international situation. So let me give you a third example. After the election and the formation of the new government, so when we were looking ahead, and it is Prime Minister Modi's nature very much, he's planning, the next few months, the next few weeks, next few months, next few years, maybe the next few decades. So he had that sense that perhaps in terms of our foreign policy, one of the biggest issues of the day is the war which is going on in Ukraine. Okay, it's a war which is coming soon to the end of its third year. Really, tens of thousands of people have died. Its impact on the rest of the world has really been very, very traumatic. So there's a great feeling in the world that something should be done. There's only one problem. There are not many people who can do anything. So I again want to tell you what happened in the last 4 months. In June, Prime Minister Modi met the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, in Italy. In July, he met President Putin in Moscow. In August, he went to Kiev to meet President Zelensky. In September, after that, again we engaged the Russians. NSA Doval was in Russia. In September, Prime Minister met Zelensky, and we have just come last week after meeting Putin. Now I'm emphasizing that not to say, okay, we are meeting people, but I want you to think, what is it today in us which allows two countries that are at war? Because when you have this very polarized situation, and war is the most extreme form of polarization, much of the world is on one side or the other, and the rest of the world is helpless or indifferent. Whatever happens, what can we do about it? So I mention this to you because there are actually very few countries and even fewer leaders today who have the ability to go to Moscow, to go to Kiev, to talk to them, to tell the other one this is what. Because we are not playing a double game here. What we hear in Kiev, we communicate to Moscow. What we hear in Moscow, we tell to Kiev. And most interesting, as this exercise has unfolded, at the beginning, a lot of countries, even a lot of media, treated it with a certain amount of skepticism. Today, the widespread sentiment is okay, at least there's some leader, some country which is stepping forward, which has the credibility, which has the desire, the confidence to actually contribute to that. Now these are three examples. When you say, ये भारत का time है, you can see it is not, as I said, just us feeling good about ourselves. It is a very practical assessment of our relevance, of our importance, of our contribution today to the world. But I know this is a very distinguished group, a lot of people with very strong business backgrounds. So I want to give you a fourth example from the business world. we were in New York for the UN General Assembly in September, and Prime Minister asked the embassy, it's normally his habit, saying that, look, please put together a group of people, a group of leading, you can say, investors or corporates. If you ever have time, forget the rest of it. You can Google it. I just want you to see that list. I want you to see that list because around that table, if you are looking for a who is who of the American business world, and absolutely, if your bar is supremely high, that who is who was around the table that day. So, today we think of Google and Microsoft as old industries. Okay, so I am actually talking, from NVIDIA, to the people in the semiconductor world, the biotechnology world, to the artificial intelligence world. And by the way, Google was also there. So I don't want to. Mr. Pichai will get angry otherwise if I missed him out. But why I want to say is, it is also today a sense in the American business circles, particularly the cutting edge industries, that ye Bharat ka time hai. That they want today to engage, to go beyond that if possible. And if I were to pick one particular industry where that has been to me very, very manifest, I would actually say it's the industry which in this coming decade will shape international relations, will shape balances of power. It's the semiconductor industry. That if you look at the levels of interest in that industry about India, the kind of the global capability centers which are today employing Indian talent, actually now the hard investments which are coming into different parts of that industry, and the belief that if there is, what is today perhaps the biggest challenge that this industry faces, because this industry is central to AI, it is central to electric mobility, it is central to renewables, in fact it is central to everything, from your auto to your electronics to your white goods, today nothing works without it. And it is that capability in this sector which actually is going to decide which are the dominant countries in the world. But there is one common realization about India, a realization in US, a realization in Europe, a realization in Japan, even today in Taiwan, that the one thing which the industry lacks are people, the right people with the ability to contribute. And if there's something that India can actually bring to the table, it is this skilled talent, of which, we potentially have it. How do we actually prepare it and bring it to the table? That is one of the big challenges of our time. Now, I've given you all these examples as to why ye Bharat ka time hai. Or I would say how, in a sense, ye Bharat ka time hai. But you will ask yourself, okay, what is driving it? Why are these countries, why are these leaders, why are these businesses today interested in India in a way in which I would say 10 years ago, definitely, maybe even 5 years ago, they were not so deeply engaged and invested. In my view, there are 3 or 4 crucial reasons. And the first, to my mind, is actually the political stability and continuity in this country. Because what has happened often in democratic societies is that you have this incumbency, anti-incumbency, term by term change. But here's the difference. In developed countries, when governments change, because so much of the policy and the choices and the structures are hardwired already, a change in the government, yes, it can have implications. I mean, US is an example. But by and large, the fundamentals of that country do not change because Chancellor X was replaced by Chancellor Y, or President A by President B, or Prime Minister C by Prime Minister D. In developing countries, that is much more the case. Because still very, I would say, the basics of good governance, setting systems in place, creating the kind of policy continuity and predictability which is so important. That can actually vary a lot, and if we are honest, we will look at our own history. The fact is that you can say till the 1990s we had a very sort of socialistic, anti-growth, anti-business thinking in the government. After that we had a period of reform. But in many ways it was a limited reform. The reforms we had to do, as I say, it was the reforms which were a must rather than the reforms that were the should. So we didn't progress a lot of that. Then you had the coalition governments and all the uncertainties which came with it. Then it actually took a government to get back growth, Atalji's government. And then actually we had a decade which by the end of that decade, actually, I think all of you know it perhaps better than I do, where we stood. So, for much of the world, I mean, this sense I got through early June and even now. Much of the world, actually, for them, the results of the election, the continuation in the third term of a government which they see as a modernizing government with a very deep understanding and a deep commitment about what needs to be done. I think this for them is actually a prerequisite of why they think ye Bharat ka time hai. That they expect today that the easier to do business, the infrastructure and logistics progress, the de-bureaucratization, the easier for living which we do, the kind of growth which we've seen in the education sector, all of this actually cumulatively for them are today the Bharat that they are looking at. And many of you are familiar, perhaps more than me, about investment decisions. My corporate life was a very short period. But you know that when you make a big investment decision, there are multiple variables which feed into ultimately a yes or no decision. And today, I can tell you that those variables and the fact that there is for them a prime minister they know, a government they understand, a track record that they see, I would say the totality of it today is actually creating that feeling. And right now, I know there are some other political things happening around me, but I also make this point. For a serious investor, Delhi is only one part of the decision making, because at the end of the day, the investment is not physically in Delhi. Delhi is the necessary but not sufficient decision to make. That sufficiency actually comes from having a similar confidence about where actually those investments will be. And that is why one part of what we are doing to shape our future is obviously a very crucial part, the choices which we made this summer. But every part of India is also making subsequent choices. It is making choices about the credibility of its geography, of its location, of its efficiencies, of its governance. And that too, I think, is a factor which is very much in people's minds. Now, my own experience as a result of all of this is, in the past, I often get speaking invitations. A lot of it tends to be my core business. Okay, people want to strategy. How are you handling China? What is happening in your neighborhood? How do you see the big geopolitics play out? That's the kind of conversations you generally do. I now find, and this has happened to me actually in the US, it happened to me in Germany, it also in Austria, even in Russia. Next month, in fact, we have a big Russian business delegation which will be coming to Mumbai. I find now the political part gets done and out of the way. Then actually people are most interested about what is happening in India. They are interested in our education progress. They are interested in our human development indices. What is what has been the difference? How much more electrification is there? We believe you have a big water program. Your logistics is changing. And when you sit down today and throw some of these numbers at them, which I try. When you look at people whose lives revolve around numbers, you have to give them some numbers to think about. So when you actually share these numbers with them, that 30 kilometers of road, highway a day, or 12, 14 kilometers of railway track a day, the fact that, if you look at it on average, and the beauty of it is these things are happening around us. Because we see it every day, we just think it's natural. Around you, I'm sure you've seen, a lot of activity. Sometimes you even may get irritated by it. Roads should be dug up because metro is being built, or whatever, depending on what is your particular location. But just think about it. In the last 10 years, we've added 75 airports. Where in the world has that been done? And we've actually look today. Most of you travel by air. Did you ever think that it would be as difficult to get an airline ticket as it is to get a railway ticket? Because actually we've made air travel so affordable. So affordable at a time, the world's aviation industry today is in deep distress. These guys who are running Indian aviation, they go there like, I'm waiting for my planes, the next set of planes are due. And the same thing, you look at the railway transformation. Look at education. On an average, actually, we've added 2 colleges a day for the last 10 years. Now, I'm not resting on any laurels, It's not my case, we've done a great job and therefore you should all be appreciative. To me, this shows you a potential, this shows you what is possible. And this much I can tell you, as a member of the cabinet, This time we actually hit the ground running. If you see the last 150 odd days, I mean, we've actually really week after week, something big is coming out in terms of policy and in terms of, new initiatives and programs. So the long and short of it, I do want to impress on you today that the interest of the world in India is enormous. It's deepening. Yes, again, it's not my case. We have problems. Not everything we will do is right. There will be issues of criticism. Could be legitimate criticism as well. But if you take it cumulatively, I would say overwhelmingly today in the world, there is that sense that, we need to engage Bharat more deeply. Now, there's another reason for it as well, which is the anxiety of the world. One is our achievements or virtues or whatever you call them. Because the world is today, very honestly, a very unhappy place. As I said, there are two big wars going on. But the world economy is in a mess. And the world economy is a mess not just in terms of growth rates. People today are seriously, if you take Europe, for example, 10 years ago, Europe was on top of the world. I mean, they had everything fixed. There was gas coming in from Russia. Their American relationship was good. They thought they had a special entry into China market. So they had figured it all out. Today, they are worrying because what have the last 5 years shown us? The last 5 years have shown us really how fragile supply chains are. Not just fragile, how so many supply chains go back to a single geography. And what happens if something happens to that geography, or if that geography decides that they're going to do something with the pole position that they have. So this unease today, and it's a very common sense unease. None of us in our personal lives would ever put all our eggs in one basket. Yet it has been the cumulative wisdom of the best economists of 2 generations that actually the world has put so many eggs in one basket. I mean, think about it. People are realizing it today. And practical people are looking for solutions. So, if today the German Chancellor and so many of his ministers and so much of his industries were here, bear in mind Germany is one of the biggest investors in China. If they were here and talking what they were talking about, the world is also looking today to diversify its supply chains. Now, it will not happen on its own. It's up to us. That can we actually create the environment for industry to grow? Can we actually attract technologies from different parts of the world? Do we have the human resources? Are we preparing the human resources today to make that possible in this country? And supply chains is one part of it. It is even more so because it is married with the digital. That entering the era of AI, the importance of who harnesses and harvests data is crucial. So, who has whose data in large numbers is a very important part of where the world is going to be going and who's going to be more important in that world. So, and data has now become an issue of trust, because if you have data without any legal protection, I mean, I would be very worried about where my personal data goes. Ideally, I would like it to remain only with me, which is not realistic. But I would certainly would be very, I would say, careless or irresponsible if I allowed my data to go to reside in a location where that data actually is used for purposes which may or may not be in accordance with my national interest. Now, it's not just me. This is the widespread feeling today in much of the world. So if you look at supply chains and you look at data, there's also something happening there. And in these changes, I would put to you, ladies and gentlemen, there are big opportunities. If today, as a country, with this kind of policy, political stability, the kind of predictability of policy, the kind of contractual, our commitment to contracts, the fact that we are an open society, we are a market economy, we have, the talent and skills in large numbers. I think all of this really makes for why I believe that ye Bharat ka time hai. There are other aspects of it. We are today a bigger contributor also to the world. In many ways, we are a first responder. How we have behaved in the neighborhood has made an impression, in the rest of the world. Especially what we did for Sri Lanka, I think has very widely, impressed people even beyond the region. And to end it all, I do think that, many parts of the world, especially what we call the global south, the developing world, they actually, it's very interesting. It's very interesting to meet people who take pride in your achievement. Because there is today a strong sense of solidarity with a lot of these countries, saying, this country is one of us. If they went to the moon, or they did this, or they did that, their growth rates are high, they also feel good about it. And that solidarity is certainly emotionally very satisfying. But I also put it to you, there are opportunities there too. When I go to Africa and I go to Latin America, I can tell you, the economic interest, the investment interest there today, the business interest to work with us is far, far more than I've ever seen before. And, it is fertile ground for us actually to make a move. So these were some of the thoughts I thought I would share with you. I'm sorry I went on a little longer than I intended to, but nevertheless, I'd be happy to take questions or to listen to your views. Thank you very much. Mumbai is a great place even otherwise, but the air quality is much better.
Okay, just hold on. I'm going to open this to the audience. I thought I'll take the liberty of asking a few questions myself, because once I open up, I won't get a chance. Sorry. Of course. And I think I think you've seen him, that what he does is he takes 2-3 questions, makes some notes, and then he'll answer those questions. So I'll come to you, sir. And of course, now we know each other. So I'll pick you first for sure. So doctor, just a few questions, which, while we were putting this together, from the students, from large corporates, the media, the bureaucrats in some way, a lot of questions came commonly, and I think some of them will ask for you. The first one I want to ask you is, this whole Ukraine-Russia war. And, we were the only country, I think even Americans failed to pull out their students and the citizens from Ukraine. How did we do this? Because this is like a Hollywood movie. So how did we do that, doctor?
You are right. I think a lot of countries told their people, students, whatever business, sometimes they were dual citizens, saying, look, here is an advisory. If things are going to be dangerous, please take the first commercial flight out. Okay? Now, I must tell you, in most countries, issuing that advisory and saying, bhai, dangerous, time to get out, you've done your job. I mean, the majority, overwhelming majority of the governments of the world do not think it's their responsibility to actually make a physical effort and get people. Some do. And, some do in some places. In our case, we had done it even before 2022. We had done it during the Yemen civil war. We had done it once in South Sudan. We'd done it sporadically in places. But we never had, to do it actually, literally in the middle of a conflict. Because, again, look, once it was over, people came back, and then forgive my saying it, it also became a little bit political, people deliberately questioned some of it. Actually, there was shooting going on in cities or firing going on in cities where the students were. In fact, one poor student even lost his life. So, we set about it because underlying it was a fundamental belief that our citizens in the coming days are going to be spread across the world. If we do not put in place systems and practices for a global workplace, global education place, you can say global tourism place, what will be the assurance, the confidence with which people go out? So what happened in Ukraine was in a way a culmination of many building blocks which happened earlier. One of them, for example, was we digitized our passport data. Our ability today, if I were to, you give me your names, I'm actually in a database within a matter of minutes able to map you all out. So even organizing our data has become that much easier. We created a fund to deal with contingencies like this. We created a culture of working with the, it's very interesting. 10 years ago, if I went to the Ministry of External Affairs, of which I was already working, and said, how many of you know anybody in an airline? Probably people would have looked at me blankly. But by working together, we knew the airlines, we knew the military. All these, steps, eventually this was like a test which we never saw coming, but there were a whole lot of smaller tests we had done, and then it came together. And the one important thing I must also tell you, we had also a strong spirit of volunteerism, that there were people, in the last phase, when actually there were last lot of students who were stuck. And that place had the maximum amount of firing going on. And those poor students actually made 2-3 efforts to get out. Every time they came out of the hostels, somebody fired on somebody and they went back. So they actually had reached a point where they lost confidence. So what they told us was, look, we're not coming out unless somebody comes to get us. Now, the interesting thing was, when I turned around and asked in the ministry, so can I get volunteers? I need somebody sitting in Delhi. So set out and go to that place in northeast Ukraine with full knowledge of what awaits them. And I needed two fairly senior people, people who could reason with students. So I needed people a little bit, somehow you could say fatherly or motherly levels. And I had no shortage of people. And 2 of them actually went there. And in fact, when they were heading there, the Ukrainians told them, you're crazy. I mean, everybody else is coming out of the place. What the hell are you doing you're heading towards a conflict, you should be moving away from the conflict.
So, there's a lot of reports in the media that the Prime Minister spoke to Putin and said, can you have a ceasefire for 4 hours, but we got them off the border. Is that correct?
That's correct. Well, he spoke to Putin. He also spoke to Zelensky. And by the way, he did it not once, he did it twice. There was a city called Kharkiv, where we had negotiated that there's a safe zone. And we told the students, head to the safe zone, and our buses will come and pull you out of there. And the problem was something went wrong, and the artillery started firing. So actually, PM spoke to Putin and said, look, we have this assurance, and your guys are not honoring it, and can you ask your commanders to do something about it? And then the firing stopped, and then people went. And then the second place where this was a city called Sumy, where he spoke to both, in fact he spoke to both Putin and to Zelensky, and then actually tasked us to follow up, and we had to, it wasn't just stopping in a place, we had to create a pathway, saying they will come through this pathway, and there were not two sides, there were actually three sides. There was a militia there as well. So we had to get from each one of them an assurance that, look, a certain number of buses will be coming, there will be an Indian flag out there, and we want your ironclad assurance, and this will be the pathway. Yes, that is it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is, after Kashmir Files, I think we need to have a movie called the Ukraine Files. I'm sure somebody's working on it right now. So there was a question on geopolitical, etc., and you just spoke, and you said there are a lot of questions on geopolitical that I have to answer. What's happening in our borders, immediate neighbors, and also as far as what's happening in Gaza, etc. But so I think you've answered that pretty well in your monologue. But I have a question which is more to do with GDP, but also is linked to what you do as a job. And I think the Prime Minister Modi has said this, and so has the Finance Minister said this, that and we are all aiming towards 2047. And I think the Prime Minister has made it very clear that where will India be in now the Amrit Kal in 2047. Global GDP will be at close to 180, 190 trillion approximately. And India will have a GDP of about 30 to 35 billion. These are numbers collaborated not just by McKinsey but also in the ministry in India, and also a lot of global financial pundits have said this, including the Ambanis and the Adanis. How far will this be achievable, number one? And how does your role, will it be achievable to achieve this 35, 40 billion kind of number, which is a big number in the next 20 years? It's not very far away. We're just about 20, 22 years away from here. And how is
I'll call you when we get there.
Okay. But how is the role, Doctor, from the foreign policy and the geopolitical that will play an important role in creating this whole story of GDP growth?
Look, if you ask me bluntly, are you convinced we will get there? My answer to you is yes. But it's not a emotional answer. It's a reasoned answer. Will we inevitably get there? No, I don't think so. I think we have to work to get there. Okay. So what do we have to do what is the work we have to do to get there? Obviously, a lot of it is what we have spoken about, on the ground. As I said, making it easier to do business, making it easier to invest, making it easier to manufacture, making it easier to employ. I mean, there are many sectors where actually the challenges of employment have driven away that particular industry. I think many of you are familiar with the story of textiles, for example. So there's a lot that we need to do at home. We have to make the paperwork easier. We have to make the regulatory environment more friendly. Because, look, I put it to you this way. Often in politics, unfortunately, it is made out as though you're making it easier to do business. Business is a bad word. Please understand, business is the flip side of employment. Anybody who's against business also against employment. You can't increase employment if you don't increase business. So we have our work cut out in India. But where foreign policy comes in is if you look at the big examples of growth in the last 50 years, maybe more, China, Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Korea, all of them have actually grown with a high degree of collaboration with international business. Because you're not going to grow very far if you do the old things by yourself in a kind of organic way. You know, you will always not just be behind the curve, you will fall more and more behind. So you will need to target new businesses, you will need, interventions and resources and technology and best practices. And this is today, certainly under Prime Minister Modi, I would say, a very central objective of Indian foreign policy.
Can I have some hot water for him, please? So you can take a 1 minute break and grab this thing. Yeah. So I'm coming to you. Just in a few minutes. So one question on how can our cultural ties continue to contribute to strengthening India's global stature?
I would say, to use your own words, as a brand custodian, it's for me a brand enhancement. Wow. I want the world, after all, to have a certain image of me. When they, at one level, I'll sum it up with a phrase which Prime Minister has used. You want to be tradition, but you want to be technology. And believe me, the tradition part of it is important because people, it's like if you're seen as a cultured nation with a long history, people give you the attributes of a certain gravitas, a responsibility, a long view, a good partner. All that comes, those attributes come with that. So I actually think cultural diplomacy is very important.
There's one question which I think everybody would like to ask you. So, from 2014, we've seen a great change, and I think everyone feels it, whether it's an auto rickshaw driver or somebody who's the managing director of a company or an entrepreneur, that India is getting corporatized at the political level. So, there's a lot of corporatization in terms of the way it's been run professionally. So there's a CEO and MD, which is our Prime Minister. Then there's a board, which is a cabinet. Then there's a leadership role below that with chief ministers. Tell me, how is our Prime Minister as a boss? Is he micromanager, or is he a guy who will say, Dr. Saab, this is what I saw in the media, I think we should do this, or he runs you with a free hand?
No, look, I'm not sure I agree with that corporate analogy to begin with. Because, I've had three careers, you can say. Diplomat, very briefly corporate, so therefore I'm speaking with some sense of that, and then politics. I think the political world is far, far more complex than the corporate world. It's got so many layers, so many variables, so many implications that it's really, it's of a totally different level. But having said that, your question, what's he like as a boss? I think I would imagine different people have different experiences and views. It's obviously very individual. I happen to be a person who, in a sense, is a minister in a domain which is my own specialization, which is a bit of an exception in our system. So, but when I observe him generally, not just with specific reference to myself, I think he defines, there is a overall like a goal or a vision or then there is an overall plan. And then I think in your particular domain, if there are targets or initiative, whatever is the objective, I think he gives you a lot of space to to put across, to see how you get there. And one thing I will tell you, he's a very interactive person. So it's not like he tells you take care of it and then there's no more conversation. But it's not like he's micromanaging it either. There is a lot of up and down on, but once a decision point is reached, you execute it. So you can say at a tactical level, yes, absolutely, you have a lot of freedom. In terms of arriving at it, there's an interactive process by which you arrive at it. But he's very open to, views and ideas in the box, out of the box, beyond the box, whatever.
So that's a lot of people had this question. So thank you so much for this. Just the last one. So I'm still coming to you. No, he's here. This is really the last question. So, a lot of people called me this morning and said that, sir, you be the senior bureaucrat for over 4 decades, and now you have a political job. How is this switch? Very quickly, how is the switch you feel, and how do you react to that?
It's a switch as easy as being thrown into a swimming pool. So if you're still swimming, you're good.
Okay. Yes, sir. Can we have the mic?
Since everyone is here to ask a question, and I'm sure everyone wants to interact with him, we'll set some ground rules. Randomly, we'll take 3 questions at a time, and he'll answer them together in a go. Sir, you can...
Sir, yes.
Gentlemen with caps get precedence.
For giving us such a knowledge what we were expecting from you. I congratulate that you maintained relations between several rivals, and they are all good and faithful to us. Recently, China has also softened its attitude, and you have visited recently Pakistan. What is your expectation from Pakistan? That is my inquiry.
So thank you, sir. So we'll have one more question. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Commander Diwan, 40th NDA, 71 war veteran. Second career has been my Vice President of TCS. My point is, sir, thank you. My point is, sir, like diplomacy is like they say, iron hand in a velvet glove. Now, diplomacy part is a velvet glove, and iron hand inside is the GDP and the arms and everything else. The point I'm making is, sir, like what you have said yesterday in Pune also, this breakthrough with China has happened because armed forces of India gave them a good, stopped the Chinese nicely, and hence they have come to terms in one way. You have mentioned Pune yesterday.
I didn't exactly use those words.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is my way of... The point, you said that is contributing. My point is, sir, 1/5, 8 out of 800 crores population, 140 crores, every 5th, 6th person is an Indian. If you're going to keep importing arms, and we can never meet up China. China is a permanent enemy. You can't change the enemies. And next 50 years, they'll be on our borders, on our throats. The point I'm making, sir, do you see, in your tenure, you have signed LIMOA and communication and BECA with America. Are they going to help us like they help set up IT industry in India, big time? Will the Americans help set up, despite the L&T, Adani, will they help us set up the big McDonnell Douglas kind of things in India, big time?
So we'll keep the question very short, sir.
That is where.
Yeah, thank you. One more, sir, or you will answer this? Take one more? At the back, please. Yeah, you can speak, please. Thank you. Just keep the mic there. Yeah, I'll come to you. Yeah, I'm going to come here and then go at the back. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Tremendous respect to you and Prime Minister Modi's team. I have come out of hospital. I was in hospital for 1.5 months, but I took this opportunity, despite my doctor saying, no, you should not move. because
Please-
I would
please
never-
listen to
I
the
would
gentleman
never
and don't sit
probably- I would probably never get an opportunity.
So please ask the question. You may sit down if you want.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The question I have is,
Hello.
we have had this war which is going on for 3 years between Ukraine and Russia. Now we have the big war which has started between Israel, Hamas, Iran, and the other terrorist groups. What has happened to people in industry is we are suffering big time. We've got orders, say in October of 2023, firm orders, we bought material worth 30, 40 crores of rupees. The freight costs, sea freight has gone up by 800%. Container costs have gone up by 800%. The companies that are buying are very, very large companies. They said, we've already given you orders, supply at those rates where we make a cash loss. Now this war is something that can go on, nobody knows by when it will get over. So we as an industry, we need support from the government as to how do we resolve it? Because if there's anybody who can resolve this on earth, it's Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Jaishankar.
I think he's got the question. Thank you so much. We appreciate this. Just this gentleman, and then we will. Yeah, just gentleman. Thank you.
Sir, this industry has grown from $40 million to $40 billion in 4 decades. And right under our Prime Minister's nose, because he was very instrumental when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat in promoting this industry. So we see in him 2 ex-Prime Minister, and in you we see 2-in-1 Foreign Minister, an astute diplomat and an very, very to-the-point Foreign Minister politician. Sir, my question is about the industry. This industry is totally dollar related because we have been 40 billion, we are importing all the raw material from overseas and exporting everything. So dollar is the key thing, and with lot of fluctuations in dollar, it hurts the industry. So when we hear about your BRICS alternatives, my question is this, that are we looking in foreseeable future and route where we can make payments and receive payments? For instance, our payments to Russia in dollars.
I got
He got the point. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So, interesting. 4 questions, and you cover Pakistan, China, Ukraine, Russia. Very good. So, first question, Pakistan. What are our expectations? Look, I think we have an expectation as a neighbor in today's world that no neighbor should, as a conscious policy decision, support and undertake terrorism against another. I mean, it is just something in this era which is, we cannot allow. Because if we overlook it, we invite more. If we rationalize it, it will spread more. So, our message is really zero tolerance for terror. Now the problem is, how do you make that a credible message? I think how to expose and delegitimize is one. And at times, if that is not enough and the situations warrant, then, every government does whatever governments have to do for their national interest and their national security. But the short point, and this was really my, in a way, my message before going to Pakistan, because, they had also started a kind of a, not rumor, but, a sort of speculation. And there were some people here who are playing the game with them. So I made it very, very clear saying, look, I'm going there for an SEO meeting. I will do my SEO business. But don't have the wrong impression that somewhere India has put aside the countering terrorism agenda or is willing to absorb it or overlook it or change it. We will not do that. I think my sense is that message went through loud and clear. The issue about arms. Look, what has happened, in fact, in the last 10 years, if you look, and there is public information, publicly available information on this. If you look at the total procurement of the Indian Armed Forces, the domestic component of that, the Make in India component of that, has gone up steadily. But it cannot change in a day. Much of it, frankly, cannot even change in a decade. It takes time. It's not easy to build platforms and, in different fields and keep it updated. You know that better than me. You have a military background. But what has been increasingly the policy is, even when we have foreign collaboration, we tell people, okay, I'm just using as an example, let us say 5 ships. Okay, maybe I'll buy 2, and in some cases try, see whether the balance of the 3 can be made partly or progressively in India. Now, on paper, all this works very well, but we also need, to some degree, the cooperation of industry, the confidence of industry, because industry will invest in this if they then think this will be a global business. And the problem is, the consumer is only one in the country. I mean, you're not going to make weapon systems and sell it on the street. So, in a sense, there's a burden on the government. How does the government put that confidence in industry that you make the investments so that, there's a continuing flow of that? But not everything can be exported, So, and if you are making an investment, exports have a high degree of uncertainty. But it took us decades to actually export. We've done one case so far after 20 years. So, look, we have to be realistic about it. But I put it to you that the difference which we have seen in the last 10 years is, even though the road is difficult, even though there are hurdles, there are problems, nevertheless, we continue to persist and persevere, and that is the way by which actually we will progress. I fully agree with you. It is just, I point out that the road is not easy, and it requires the kind of determination, especially at the top, which only somebody like Narendra Modi has. The issue about freight costs, we understand it. No, please do sit down. Look, the freight costs have taken a bigger hit after the Middle East problem, mainly because of the shipping rerouting. So, one of the things we've done is we actually sent a lot of our Navy ships to work in tandem with other forces out there so as to protect shipping, secure shipping, and take place. Nevertheless, the levels of attacks have been serious enough for many shipping lines not to take the risk. So I fully get what you are saying. It's a problem. Actually, all Asian exporting, importing economies are facing this problem today, because the bulk of the shipping routes are going below Africa and coming up. To some extent, Ukraine has contributed in certain areas. So, our effort, therefore, is really to see, since much as I would like to, we cannot protect every ship and infuse that degree of confidence in the shipping lines. See if we can actually bring about an early end to the fighting. I mean, this is frankly the practical route to address the problem. But in the long term, we also, that's why we believe that we need more connectivity. That, if For example, we have this plan called IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. If IMEC was in existence today, ships won't have to go through the Red Sea. They would be going across the Arabian Sea and discharging in UAE and moving up by land to the Mediterranean. So we have to think of long-term solutions. We are actually looking at that. On the diamond issue, just two comments. One, by and large, you would see actually the rupee has been among the stablest currencies vis-a-vis the dollar. So to that extent, I think that has been helpful. But if you ask me, can we do trade settlements in each other's currency, with Russia, maybe some other country also? Yes, we had discussed it during BRICS. Yes, there is an effort to create a group of, financial people who will look at that. Because it's not just the currency volatility, also the hedging costs are there when you use a third currency. So it is something which we are seriously looking at, not only for damage. I mean, there are many countries today where the trade has come down because they don't have access anymore to hard currency. There is a good case today to actually expand our sort of direct currency settlements.
Thank you, sir. I just want to make a small request in the interest of time and also to be fair to everyone here. Keep your questions absolutely just one line or two lines. Don't give the context, please. So I want to take two questions from here in the front and two at the back, and then he'll answer four, then I'll come back here for some time. Yeah. Yes, sir. Who's going to go first? Lalaji, you will go first? Yeah. You have a mic? Can someone give the mic, please?
Yeah. Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Shankar. I'm a composer, Jatin Lalit. I'm Lalit Pandit. Nowadays everybody watches reels and you get interested in things. Just want to ask you a question, sir, that we know that China has been trying to nibble into every territory, and also that a part of Kashmir has been given by Pakistan to China. And we are all hoping for a better future for Kashmir and for the occupied Kashmir. What would happen, sir? We are hoping that Kashmir will eventually come to India, and it is looking like it would. So what would happen if India gets the occupied Kashmir with the help of the occupied people of Kashmir itself? What happens to the part that has gone to China as a gift from Pakistan, sir?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just come to you. I think, this gentleman here. Yeah, you can ask. I think he's been putting his hand out. Yeah.
Congratulations, sir, for making we all Indians very proud of what you have done through your contributions. My simple question is, when will a rupee become equivalent to dollar?
Okay, that was a short question, so I'll give the one with the green t-shirt, please. Yeah.
I'll follow up with an equally short question, sir. The speaker introduced you as custodian of brand Bharat. So I put this question to you wearing that hat. Because entrepreneurs are only interested in the present and in the future. And in the short future, we can't wait for 2047, with all due respect to you. So as custodian of brand Bharat, what are the 4 adjectives that you would use to sort of describe Bharat in the present? And if I may, if you had to remove 2 adjectives, what would change in 5 years and why? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. At the back, Kabir. Yeah. Can somebody give the mic at the back, please? Yeah. Kabir and Sumit, you can combine the question, maybe. Yeah.
So thank you for gracing us with your presence. We all believe that ye Bharat ka time hai, and like you mentioned, it's a global belief as well. How do you see, with China's new policies coming in place to sort of revamp their economy, how do you see China countering us in that? Because koi chup to rehne wala hai nahi. How do you see India in the next few months and years, especially with China's policies coming in place?
Yeah, I think, Sumit, is that excellent question there? Yeah, I'll just come to you. Yeah. I think that's also a repeat question with China, so yeah.
So just going into the context of the currency once again, and with the whole geopolitical scenario, with the US dollar having challenges now, do you see BRICS, the currency, come up and start leading the way in a decade or two from here on? Because it will take time to change, but the platform is there for us to capture that market too.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
On the first question, look, Jammu and Kashmir and all parts of Jammu and Kashmir are part of India. So, I think this, to my mind, should be a belief and a commitment to every Indian. Yes, we have inherited a situation from the past. We can always debate, could things have been otherwise? That is to some degree a issue of politics or whichever domain that comes under. But, we have all grown up with a map. We know what our boundaries are. We know what our country is about. On when will the rupee become equivalent to a dollar? Well, you never, life is, who knows in life, but, look, to be serious. Currency, at the end of the day, after all, currency is some function of what the economy is about. I mean, not an absolute. There are all sorts of reasons for all sorts of things. I mean, you look at the yen or the numbers are very different. So I can certainly, with a fair degree of confidence, say that as the economy grows, as we because we have also, it's not just growing the economy. Our fiscal management has also been far more responsible. Today, when you look at other parameters, the world is, in fact, many parts of the world are experiencing very high inflation. So, overall, it will be a function of the management and direction and the intrinsic strength of the economy, and that those all really point upwards. In terms of the brand, what would be the 4 attributes? What would be my branding statement? I would certainly, in a way, definitely put a kind of a tech branding. For this reason, see, the world is moving into a deeper tech era. 20 years ago, we used the word tech for the IT industry. It's far more pervasive today. Someone working, say, in the auto industry would also be a very tech person. So, and it's something which there is this image, as I said, Indians are hardworking people. We put a premium on education. All of us intuitively know maths. This is the image of the world, So I would certainly put tech. I would follow up on your observation and put a kind of a civilizational attribute to our brand, because, that's like a long view, a long history, and therefore a long view beyond. I would like to have the world think of us more as a contributor. So I would say that. And probably the 4th attribute I would pick is responsible. Responsible in the sense, there are many countries, they enter commitments, they don't keep commitments. It's part, I mean, in a sense, I'm putting attributes which you would put to a person as well. If I were to say, you're a very highly technically knowledgeable, very cultured guy who does his best for the community, and, you're very responsible, you're very mature in your judgments, you're very happy. That's how I'd like the world to think of us. On the countering, look, it's a competitive world. I mean, China China has its dynamic, its trajectory. They will do many things which has its own driving forces. They may or may not do things which factor in what we are doing. I would say, independent of that, we need to build up our strengths for our own purposes. If we say, look, it's a very simple proposition. If we actually all share the dream, aspiration of being Viksit, developed. To be developed, you must be a technology generator. You can't be a technology generator if you don't have manufacturing and industry, because you don't have the environment which generates technology. So, to my mind, there are steps, there are things we need to do. Unfortunately, we didn't do it. We gave up in many areas. You still have people who say, Nani, our future is in services. Yes, services very good. I am not disputing it. But services is not a substitute for manufacturing, certainly not for technology. So, but your question about BRICS currency, look, take some of these speculative things with a pinch of salt, maybe more than a pinch, for a very simple reason. What is the recent living example of countries merging currency? Europe. Okay? I think that's the only one I can think of. In Europe, the countries could merge technology because in so many other respects the policies were aligned. Currency came much later. So, can you think of the members of the BRICS? Think of the first part of the question you asked me and ask yourself, do you really think of a common currency? So look, we need to be practical about it. In BRICS, if you discuss trade settlements, I understand it. Let's not confuse trade settlements for common currency.
No, thank you. So I think we have another 5 minutes, sir. So we have just last two questions. I'm so sorry. I know we can go on for the next 3 hours. Here's a flight to catch. We'll make it very short and simple. So you have a mic? You have a mic?
Can I? Honorable. There are 2 points in my question, sir. First, what is the policy of Indian government about the Bangladesh? Everybody is thinking what is the position of Hindus we are living in the TVs or everything. What government is doing for Bangladesh? For our Hindus.
I got that.
And second thing, you just yourself told the industry deadlet, but still the atmosphere easy doing is not there for the industrialists. Every industries we are having something, because China, we are much dependent in every sector on China in business.
Please, question.
No, my question for India also is still, you are saying make in India, making those things, but still the atmosphere of all states are not like that. Easily we can get permission, we can get everything in 30 days, 40 days. What you are saying in your speeches, that is not in practical. Second thing,
I've got the question.
Second thing, we are importing everything from China. So where can we believe in China in this both things, business and also in the military, these those things?
Honorable Minister, here, this side. First of all, thank you so much to enlighten us. My question is... Yeah. My question is
So, we've got 2 wars going on, and practically a third one on the way, it looks like. So, if something happens and the Israel-Iran escalates, that could prove to be very detrimental to India, where we have relationships with both sides, and especially for our economy, and more than anything for the exporting sector of our economy. What do you think of that, and I'm sure you must have already had a strategy in place if that does happen.
Yeah. So I'm just going to take 2 more. So the mic, somebody?
Honorable Minister, I just want to ask you that the world is today witnessing the Jaishankar effect, I believe. Your confidence, your aura, your energy, I just want to know how to take it to the masses of India. because being history of invasions, we were hit by a inferiority complex. So I just want that how to take your confidence, your belief to the masses of India.
Okay, great question. So we'll,
Sir,
lady first, yes.
I don't have a question. I follow you. And listening to everything, there is something that I want to say for everyone. हर कोई रण में लड़े ये असंभव सी बात है, जो जहां है वही रह के देश की सेवा करे, हो शिक्षक या डिप्लोमेट या बिजनेसमैन या स्टार्टअप या मजदूर या शिक्षक, हर कोई काम अपना डूब के ऐसे करे, कर रहा हो भक्त जैसे देश की सेवा मगन, माँ भारती के चरणों में ये हमारा परम वंदन. इफ ऑल ऑफ अस कैन डू दैट फ्रॉम विच एवर पार्ट वी आर कमिंग, क्योंकि यहाँ पे लिखा है ये भारत का टाइम है. सो जय भारत एवरीवन. थैंक यू. ये भारत का टाइम है.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Hello. Yes, after you.
Good evening, sir. It's specific question again on China. I'm a director from Afcon's infrastructure, and we do a lot of projects.
What's the question?
Yeah, question is, we are doing tunneling project for high-speed rail, and this tunnel related all equipment
you don't need to ask that question. I know the.
I think he knows what he's asking you. Thank you so much.
we need help. And
सर
फाइन, थैंक यू.
सर ये वाकई भारत का टाइम है. भारत पाकिस्तान ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर, ये हम कब अपने भारत के नक्शे पे देख सकेंगे जल्दी सर?
Sir, one last question, sir. No, sir, please. He cannot answer 8 questions. That's the last question. Thank you, sir. On to you.
जो बांग्लादेश वाला सवाल जो था, देखिए आप सब जानते हैं, there were developments in that country, and उसका impact भी आप सब लोग जानते हैं. And you know what happened in that environment is that minorities, especially Hindus, were targeted. And it is important for us to raise our voice, to point out that this is happening, because when you do that, that itself has an impact. Then, you know, because if you cover it up or you say that kabhi nahi hua, then more and more of this violence will happen. So, at the minimum, what we had to do is to focus on it, highlight it, point it out, take it up with them, which we have done. So, what happens now in the relationship, we will see. So, look.
This is no discussion on this, please.
The second issue, you know, what you said, I made the point, maybe I didn't communicate so clearly. I said that we have a history of making it difficult to do business in this country and difficult to promote growth. I also said, please remember, after 2014, we have tried to reverse it. We have tried to increase growth. We have tried to make it easier to do business. It's still work in progress. Your question, do we import a lot from China? Answer is yes. I would then say business people also need to reflect on it, because government is not doing the importing, business is doing the importing.
Well said.
So there is a dynamic. I fully agree. Government needs to promote and strengthen business more, but business also needs to do its national duty and also support small businesses, employ people in India, and do its duty. I think it's a two-way. We should not be pointing fingers at each other. We are actually partners in this matter. On your third question, Iran-Israel issue, yes, it is a source of worry, and absolutely right. If things become worse, it will have even more, pressures on business, which the gentleman behind you pointed out. So our effort has been to try and lower the tension. In fact, जब हम लोग ब्रिक्स के लिए गए थे, PM had met the Iranian president, I had met the foreign minister. We are also talking to Israel. So some things are happening. Diplomacy में हर चीज public नहीं होती, but please do understand that we are definitely trying to do our best to bring down the tension levels. That gentleman, I have an answer, but I don't need to give him that answer in public, and I think he also doesn't want that answer in public. जो आपका जो आखिरी question जो था about the masses of India, see, leaders take energy from masses. Masses take energy from leader. I think today when you have somebody like Narendra Modi, the impact of it on this country. Actually, those of us who are closer to my age group will remember longer, what it was like in the earlier era. Today, when we speak about aspirational India, when we say that, society, log ab bardasht nahi karenge, they want answers now. Why is that? Because they have faith today in a leader who actually has the record, who has the commitment, they can see is working night and day, and they say, okay, I can expect such a thing. Whereas 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, actually people were very cynical about politics. And उनके लिए था, हाँ ठीक है, कोई है दिल्ली में प्रधानमंत्री होगा, तो but how has my life changed? So at the end of the day, see, there are many things which make a country and many things which energize masses. But to energize, you need a leader, you need a vision, you need a faith, you need a commitment, and I think we have all of that, which is why ये भारत का time है.
Thank you very much indeed. I need to recognize two sets of people here who made this possible, Dr. Saab, who really worked very hard in the last few days to do this. The first set of people is from the BJP Mumbai family, and I have to call upon Jatin Desai and the trustee of the Chamber of Indian Charitable Trust, Amit Mehta, to please. Thank you so much, Jatin and Amit. Jatin has been actually the last 4 days he's been made some 500 calls, so thank you so much on this, Jatin. And of course, two very fine young people, I just met them backstage an hour ago, who come from some great legacy families, who've dedicated their life for our country. But I want to call on behalf of Ye Bharat Ka Time Hai group and the people who've done behind this is Mudit Sejwar and Jayavardhan Joshi. Please come. These two young boys, ladies and gentlemen, deserve some round of applause. Jatin, thank you again thank you so much for doing this. Your whole team, Kumar, Kevin has been here. I know we can take 200 more questions, but really can't. Dr. Saab, thank you so much. Have a safe flight. I know you have a 8 o'clock morning back to work, but what a pleasure to meet you.